Hey everyone, so just gonna jump right in with this video. This starts right out pulling the accessory drive off the crankshaft. So it's gonna jump right in. It's pretty much a continuation of the last video, so enjoy. This guy right here is for your timing. So this shows, and I'll show it to you in a second, but basically this determines, this helps you set your timing. So it shows you in relationship to the crankshaft if you're 10 degrees or at top dead center. And there's two notches on this crank. So they're really hard to see, and the problem is that this is so rusted. This pulley is so rusted. I'm going to be replacing it with a different, with a damper. This is actually the damper as well. So I'm going to rotate you over this way. So it's kind of hard to see, and I'm going to kind of put this up behind it. There's two notches. There's one notch here, and there's one notch down here, and you can kind of barely see them. So what I'm going to do really quick is just to knock down some of this rust. I'm going to hit it with a wire wheel really quick. It's just mainly because I don't care about this and I just want to get it cleaned up to kind of show off what I'm trying to do. So I'm going to get safety glasses on here and grab my wire wheel. Let's see if I can't clean this up a little bit. Alright, it's not too bad. The way I've observed this working, and I've checked this already, there's no damage on the keyway, so this is a good keyway. There should be no slop between this position here and where the crankshaft is actually positioned at TDC. Alright guys, this is the Haynes manual. This is for the NA 9297, but it still applies since the BP motor is pretty much the same. So I just basically wanted it for this reference picture right here, and this just shows you the cylinder order. So 1, 2, 3, and 4 from the front to the back. So looking over here, you know, we've got cylinders 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you notice I've got this screwdriver sticking inside of here, and this is what we're going to be using to find TDC, just basically to confirm top dead center. So top dead center at an engine is when the piston is the piston here is at the topmost point. So as the piston rises and the crank and the connecting rod is moving upward, it's on kind of one side and it comes up, and then the connecting rod moves to the side and then goes back down, and it repeats that motion in that circle. So top dead center is right where that connecting rod's crossing over the center of the crankshaft. So that's the very top of the piston's travel. So what we're going to do here is we just go ahead and take the spark plugs out of these holes. So this has a direct line right down into the cylinder, and so by doing that we now have the ability to put something in there. So I'm going to, this is just a normal screwdriver, so it's just really long shank. So I'm going to drop this down in here, it'll bottom out against the piston. Now once it's there, as we rotate the crank, you're going to notice that the screwdriver is going to move up and down along with the piston. So that's kind of going to give us our visual indication of where that piston is inside its bore. All right, so we've got our marks cleaned off. So those are the two marks down there that we're gonna use to determine when we're at TDC. And then these are the markings on the engine itself. So you see that each one of these is a degree, and you have 10 degrees. I think it might be a degree. Might be 2 degrees for each. So 10, 8, 6, 4, 2, and then top dead center. So you've got, this is used normally with the strobe light. So you use this with a timing light. So as the engine's rotating, you watch for those notches, and where those notches are strobing at, you can determine if you're firing on top dead center or you're firing, how far before top dead center you're firing. So maybe firing at 10 degrees before top dead center, which is, you don't want to fire top dead center because you're going to lose a lot of power. Usually engines fire before top dead center so that the burn begins as the cylinder is still compressing that mixture. But I will discuss that more at a later date. So for now, we're going to basically try and figure out what's going on with if this is aligned with these marks on the sprockets, and kind of make sure everything is lined up. So I got a 21 millimeter socket on my wrench. You always want to turn this the direction the engine is rotating. As I rotate this, you can see those marks slowly coming by. And then if I come up here, as I rotate this, let me zoom out a little bit here. You can see that the screwdriver is going back up, and then it's also going back down inside here. Now I'm gonna have to give it a little nudge there, but as you can see, as I rotate this, it's moving up and down. So what we're gonna do this time around is we're gonna zoom in on this, and we're gonna watch for these two marks. So these marks are gonna slowly come around, and there they are. So we're gonna get in really close here, and we're gonna watch how they move towards this setup here. So I'm gonna move this. Our first mark's at 10 degrees. First mark's at top dead center. So now I'm gonna look up here. I'm gonna slowly continue to rotate this as I look up top here. We can see our screwdriver is pretty high out of here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna kind of get in close so we can really watch this, see if it'll focus. And then I'm going to keep turning it very slowly. You can see that, and it's almost imperceptible, but the screwdriver is still slightly moving upwards. And now it's about stopped. It's not really moving up anymore. So, but looking at it, we can see that the second tick, that second notch, is at TDC. And anything, as soon as I start moving past TDC, the screwdriver begins to go back down. So we confirm that with that notch, with this notch here. I'm going to rotate this around once more. With this second notch, so this guy right here, at the T line, we are placing the engine at TDC. So now, looking straight on, as you can see there, cylinder 1 is at TDC. Alright, so we've got the number 1 cylinder set at TDC, so it's at top dead center. And what we're doing now is we're looking at the timing marks on these two sprockets. This is how you set your timing. This is how we determine if the engine's correctly timed. So I've got you kind of head on here, which is the best way to do this because there's some marks on here that we have to look at. So looking at these marks, we can see that there's a mark here, there's a mark here, and these marks are pretty much lined up almost perfectly. Let me zoom in on this. This mark right here, I know it says I on here and it says exhaust, but these are whatever it is what's facing upwards. So the E for the exhaust is straight up and down. And then down here you've got this little notch here, and that notch is exactly pointing to this guy, and this is the timing mark on this plate here. And just the same over here, you've got this little timing mark right here. It's not very easy to see, and then he's lined up directly with this guy right here. So these marks all match up. E is up on this guy. This one unfortunately does not have, on the newer cams for the intake, they did not add that on there. So you'll have to know that it's the intake cam. I mean, it's pretty obvious. So I'm going to rotate this once more, and we'll watch how these move. So I'm going to rotate you a little bit so you can kind of see both, and then I'm going to slowly turn away from top dead center. Now keep in mind these are double the size, so we might need to rotate twice to get back to that area. So notch is coming around. Notch is back at top dead center. Now looking at it, we have the opposite. So the exhaust is upside down. Marks aren't lining up here. There's nothing lined up. So you can't tell that anything it's definitely not how it's supposed to be. So we're gonna rotate this once more, because the timing belt sprocket attached to the crankshaft is half the size of these sprockets. So for every 1 revolution that the crankshaft does, it turns these a half revolution. And just so it takes 2 revolutions of the engine to rotate the crankshaft once. So coming back up on that top dead center, and I am positioning it now. And there you go. That is at top dead center once more. And look at this. Exhaust lines up. We've got the eye here, but the important part here is that the little indicators here and here are both facing those areas. Now to make this easier on myself, I'm going to take a paint pen and I'm going to label these. So there's a white there. I'll put a little indicator there. And it's not a big deal for the indicator, but I just want to mark these spots so that I know that when I go to realign these, this goes to here, this goes to here. So that way it's a kind of an easy frame of reference so that I don't have to worry about getting the letters lined up and everything else. Just align those paint marks and put these on the proper sides, and that's all that I need to do. Now, something to be careful of if you're going to do some heavy washing on this thing, you're going to clean it up, you might want to do something like take a picture of this, which is what I'm going to be doing in a second. I'm going to get some pictures of this whole setup so that when I go to put it back together, I've got visual reference as to how everything is supposed to look. So after pulling that cover off, looking inside here, you can see there's a bunch of grease on this idler. And that usually is going to mean that either this bearing is going bad, it packed too much grease in it, something's wrong with it, because the one right next to it is clean. So if you look at this guy, there's nothing inside there. It looks fine. All right, so next up, to take this timing belt off, first thing I do is get this pulley boss off of here. So let me zoom in a little on that. I've already loosened it up a little bit, so rotate this a little further. There we go. So if I can hold on to this, there we go. See if I can't keep those cams in place, but it's not a big deal. Alright, so this pulley boss just kind of wiggles off of here. Awesome. So, pulley boss is off, and you can see it uses this keyway here to align itself, but it does not use that keyway to carry any kind of load. This keyway is designed only to align these components. When you torque that crankshaft bolt onto here, it smashes this face here against this face, and that pressure there, that's what actually transfers the load, is these faces mating together. So the problem is that if this crankshaft bolt backs out, the pressure that's pushing these two faces together is released, and the stress gets bared on the keyway, and that's why you sometimes see Miatas with worn keyways, because the crankshaft bolt's backed out and then the keyway is carrying the entire load of the accessory drive, and that causes this keyway to wallow out and no longer can hold timing properly. Alright, start getting this off. We're going to do a 14mm wrench. Go here and loosen this tensioner up. Tensioner's nice and loose now. Now I can pry the tensioner away. And I'm going to use a small pry bar for that. So you can kind of push this away like so. And when we do, it's going to loosen up the entire timing belt. And it's kind of slide it off of here. Super easy, right? Yeah, that's not a joke. It's not easy. One of the problems that these cams they're held in place by torque. So these cams are trying to turn right now. So when I pop this off, these cams are going to spring a little bit. So it's not super easy to get these things off. You want to be a little careful that you don't hurt yourself. So I'm going to use this pry bar here, just very gently kind of walk this timing belt off of this cam. There it goes. Yep. See it rotated just a little bit. And that is fine because we've got everything labeled. So there you go, timing belt's off. Now we can proceed to disassemble this part of it. So this spring is constantly pulling on this. So what we need to do is unlatch that spring. So I'm going to use a small needle nose vice grip and see if I can't get in there and pull this spring off. There we go. That's now loose. This guy will come right out. Okay, and there's a spring. Set these aside here. Just got to do the same thing over here to the idler. With this from the bottom here. Oh boy, she's on there, huh? Oh geez, it's really on there. Use a tiny bit of air in there to get that off. There we go. Alright. And there's the idler. Next up, we can probably pop the crankshaft pulley off. So this is going to be interesting because we may or may not be able to get this out of here. Oh, no, it is loose. Look at that. Now, I have not taken this off yet, so this is first time that is coming out. Perfect. Looks good. You know, this is also where the torque is exerted on this. So the pulley ball is clamped to this face, and this guy, all that torque gets clamped onto this little bit of the crankshaft right here, and all that pressure is what actually drives the accessory pulley. Now, if you notice, this guy is notched, just like the that accessory pulley. There's also a notch right here, and that's how you know this is in top dead center position. So we rotated it a bit off of that because of we were playing around, but that's how you know. So the other thing is this key. So this woodruff key is important. And I'm going to pop this out of here gently. And if you notice, see how it's kind of really hard to see, but this end's kind of flat, and this end is curved. You can kind of see there's a little curve on there, and this end is flat. And what's important about that is you always have to put this in with the curved end in. That's another common mistake that leads to the crank nose becoming damaged, is that curved end doesn't go in there, and then the stack up pressure gets put on the woodruff key, and the woodruff key itself carries the load, and then that wallows out that keyway. But this looks really good. It's clean. There's no rust, there's no wallowing. It looks like it's been really, whoever did the timing belt change did it right, so that's a good thing. Alright, getting the cam gears off is going to be interesting. There's two different ways we're going to have to do it. One obviously for the intake, one for the exhaust. Start the exhaust first. Now on this engine, the camshaft itself has a flat in it, and it is right here. So this is designed so you can hold the camshaft with a tool. So you don't want to grip it anywhere else along this line. This is specifically so you can hold on to that camshaft. So what I'm going to do is I've got a large crescent wrench here, and it's probably not the preferred, tool, but it's my weapon of choice here. And so I'm going to try to do this. Let's see, I got to put this on this way right here, because the direction in which we are going to be trying to rotate this. So I'm going to use this to hold on to the camshaft while I undo it with with my ratchet here. That's a 14 millimeter. So let me go ahead and put you guys back up here, and I will do that. Oh, jeez. Oh, wow. It is really on there. That's not an easy. Well, that is not an easy task. Let me see. I might just pop this off with the air ratchet. There we go. Just snugged in there really well. Now, one other thing we got to do is that we marked the relationship of the cam gear itself, this camshaft, to this faceplate here. What we haven't done is we got to mark the relationship of this cam gear to the camshaft. So there's a dot here, and there's the little hole. So someone's already kind of done that. I'm just going to go ahead and remark it and make it a little darker, just so that I've got a really good indication that this is where this little guy right here goes, so that you get these two aligned correctly. So now when I take this off, you can see there's this alignment dot. So when this goes back on, you just line those two up, so you're not accidentally putting it on sideways. That'll kind of help you make sure you get everything correct. Intake side, it's going to be a little different. From what I'm reading, this is what I'm reading. These three Torx bolts come out. There's a seal inside, and then you have access to the bolt. So what I'm going to do is the same thing. I'm going to grab onto the cam there. I'm going to go ahead and grab my Torx bits. Got an entire array of them here. So see what that is. It's like a T25. Alright, so got my T25. Gonna get in here, see if I can't loosen these up. Whoop, I think that broke loose. Yep, alright. To this next one here. And one more. Oh, oof. One thing I'd be really sure of that you're not marring this. Oh, geez, like I just did. Great. Wow, that is really in there. Yeah, I'm gonna see. I might be able to impact that out. Boy, it is really jacked up. Nah, that is really screwed. Make sure you use an impact on that. Dang. All right, I'm gonna give me a minute and let me figure out what I'm gonna do. All right, so what I ended up doing, I went ahead and I tried to drill it out, and I got it going. And in the process, I had to use the larger drill bit, so I drilled the head off of the screw. Head snapped off, and it's still inside there. So I'm gonna have to take this on a drill press, and go in there with a small drill, and drill that out. These screws aren't very long, so I'm pretty sure if I drill that in there, I'll be able to pop that out. But it's just another thing I'm gonna have to do. But for now, we did get this off, so I can finish taking this guy out of here. Like I said, I tried to use easy outs on it, but I couldn't get them in there, and they just weren't gripping on that screw head. So probably want to use this. This is how big they are. They're pretty small. So looking at it, there's probably not much in there. So this is off, and now you can see the bolt head. So I'm gonna go ahead and take that out. So just for reference, this is going to be a mess. There's oil leaking out of it. So I'm gonna just grab a paper towel or something like that to kind of sop some of that up. But it's going to be a 17. So I'm gonna go ahead and get in there and see if I can't. Now one of the things I'm going to try to do is keep this wrench away from the case, because the last thing I want to do is bend the top of the valve cover mating surface and have it cause problems. Just going to try to kind of wrap on it, see if I can't get it to loosen up here. I think there we go. That'll do it. Probably could also done with an impact. I was just really nervous about using an impact around the components in there. I don't want to mess up the VVT, so I wasn't sure it was appropriate, and I just wanted to err on the side of caution. So supposedly can now unscrew this bolt, which I believe is an oil bolt. It's like a banjo bolt. Let me see if that's true. There's a hole in one of it, and there's a hole in the other, so it looks like it does do some kind of oil flow. Now the intake, I'm told there's only one way for this to go on, so I'm gonna kind of validate that. This slides off. There's a single pin on the back side here. Yeah, so on the back side there's one big hole that pin goes into. I don't think it can go into the other holes. It's only one hole. So I'm going to validate that here just by sliding this back on. Goes in that one direction, the righting up. Rotate this. Nope, it only goes on in that one direction. Alright, so we can safely pull this off and set this aside. Probably going to keep dripping oil. I'm actually going to set it on my oil pan. Go ahead and take this head plate off now. These are 10s. Buzz all these off. Sorry, this angle. Probably get you guys a better angle. There you go. Okay. All right. So this should just kind of come off. There we go. This is what the thermostat housing is. So we could get in here and take these off. All right, I got a swivel so I can get into there. So I slide in there and kind of. Okay, that's one. Same thing on this side. Okay. All right, got that label. So now this should just kind of come right out of here. And it does. And there's a little gasket, a little O-ring. Very, very well crushed. So one of those other things got to be replaced. Something I didn't manage to get to on this side is the fuel rails. So we got the injector still in here, got the fuel rail. These are 12s. Let me turn my fan down. All right, let's pop this off. Okay. Now, one thing I'm definitely going to do is go back and be watching this video. And that's kind of why you see me showing off some of the bolts, because I'm going to go watch this video again. And I'm going to use that to figure out where everything goes, in case, you know, I'm not understanding. So these should just pop right out. These are just kind of held in. Okay, there's a little bit of fuel dripping off there, no big deal. I'll set this down on the ground. And that fuel is getting absorbed by that. So there's these little spacers right here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put these in with the bolts that I just put away. All right, I think most things are off the head now. We've kind of got everything out except the camshafts. Those are still in, and the head itself. Just taking a look around here and see if we've got anything else really standing out. There is a housing on the back. Let's go ahead and get that off. Apologize for the poor lighting back here, but it is what it is. Looks like the temp sensor housing, so I'm just going to pop that off of there. See if I can't get in. Yeah. Okay. Okay. There's one. And the other. One's a stud, one's a nut. Alright guys, so I'm looking at the enthusiast manual here. This is the 1.8 liter enthusiast shop manual. There's a pretty good section here on how to remove the camshafts, and these are good because this manual's got a lot of information about pitfalls and whatnot that a lot of other manuals won't have, like the Haynes. It'll just say, you know, remove it and you're done. Whereas this one's going to give you a lot more information about you know, things you might run into. So looking at this is basically saying that the camshafts are retained by 5 bearing caps. Each cap is numbered from the front of the engine backwards. So looking over at our engine here, we can see that indeed these guys are numbered. So right, very faintly. This is the exhaust side, so you have E2, and it's kind of hard to tell, but it does say E2. Now they say on theirs this was labeled E for the exhaust, no number, but this one I don't see any kind of marking at all. On the plus side, we're going to be able to tell these two apart because the intake has this really big crazy thing, you know, this oil line on there, so no worries there. Now coming back, we can see there's E2, there's E3, there's E4, and an E5, and it's the same thing on the intake side. Can't really see it, but there's I5, I4, I3, I2, and there's nothing on here obviously because it's this big honking thing. But anyways, so that will make things easier. So what I've got here to do this, to maintain that all these bolts go back in the same spots, all these camshaft covers go in the same spots. I've got a box here, and I labeled it front. So what I'm basically going to do is I'm going to rotate this box, same orientation as the engine. I'm going to poke holes in it. I'm just going to drop each of those camshaft covers into there. Looking at this manual again here, and now that I've got oil on my hand, I can't really touch it. But it mentions that you need to undo and remove the 10 millimeter bolts. holding the bearing caps on for each camshaft. And it warns you they got to be done in a special sequence. So if you look at the sequence here, we got 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So basically each side is done in a spiral. So from out to in. So you can kind of see doot, 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 like that. So same thing over here. We've got 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So now it also tells you here that they not just done in a spiral, but they also must be progressively. So it says that they must be done by half a turn on the first pass, followed by a full turn on the second pass, and then completely removed on the third pass. So that's a whole lot of work, but it's important so that because there's so much pressure on the camshafts via the valve springs that if you undo one side of it, you can bend the camshaft, you could damage the bearing. There's a lot of things that can happen there because there's a lot of force inside that camshaft right now. So what we're going to do is slowly remove those, and I'm going to probably have to do a time lapse on this because it's going to take a minute, but we're going to slowly undo each of these camshafts. All right, so we're going to go ahead and pull the camshaft bolts off. I'm going to start with the exhaust bolts. So basically we're going to do the half turn to start with. So I'm just going to kind of position my wrench so that I have a good reference point, and I'm going to loosen that a half turn. That's 1. There's 2. Now up here we've got 3. Half turn. 4. Okay, and we've got, see, these are loose, so then 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Alright, so that was a half turn each. Now I have to do a full turn on the second pass, so I'll start at the same spot again. 1, so I'm going to do a full revolution. 2, full revolution. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. What I should mention is that all the way through that, they may have loosened up, but I could still feel the pressure of that camshaft pushing upwards. And now it says that we can go ahead and remove these completely, so I'm going to switch over to my small one here. I'm just going to do I'm gonna kind of jump around from the rules. I'm gonna do a 2 because I still feel some tension on these, so I'm just gonna go ahead and just run. I mean, it doesn't hurt. I'm just gonna go ahead and give one more sequence through. I'm just doing 2 turns this time. Alright, so I think they should all be loose. Alright, so I've got my holes punched. They're not taking up the whole box because I'm going to use the box for some other stuff as well. So, now that I've lost my 10mm, here it is, go ahead and start removing these guys. And they're still under tension. Huh. Yeah, that... Huh. I wonder if I should have rotated this. Okay, that was my bad. This guy was not rotated correctly. So make sure you rotate the cams so nothing's pushing on it. And that would be my fault there. Just gonna go by hand and make sure these are all loose. They are. All right, let's try this again. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna unscrew both sides of this. Then I'm gonna carefully lift this guy out. And I'm gonna place him into the respective hole on my box. So same thing here, doing it to the front. Loosen this guy fully. He might need a little coercing because I think this one might be kind of held in there. Yeah, I'm gonna save that for just a minute. I've gotta get somewhere to get that out. Oh, I see where. Yeah, it's kind of part of the. Okay. Now I don't have to be going in this pattern anymore, but I'm doing it because it kind of commits to memory. So now, you know, if when I'm doing this on the other side, I can just kind of memorize how I did it. It's kind of stuck in there. There we go. And he's going to go in number 2 slot. These are still labeled. I'm going to have them in the same orientation too. So, guys, I got to tell you, Florida is hot. There's that. This last one I'm going to set this down for. I'm going to do a quick read. So the manual says to go ahead and tap it with like a nylon hammer. So I do have one of those. This is a soft, it's like a rubbery compound here and a nylon. So this is good for just like gently tapping on stuff. So I'm gonna kind of lift this up a little bit. And I'm just gonna use that bolt head and just gently. He does not want to come out of there, huh? There it goes. So just tapped on the crankshaft itself. Camshaft, sorry, my bad. Did not mean to say crankshaft. There it goes. Alright, so this end comes up very carefully while not dropping it. Get this camshaft out. Guys, I apologize if there's a little wind noise. I just cannot stand all of this heat. I got the fan on behind me just to cool me down, and the camera down a little bit too because it's already giving me overheating warnings. So got the exhaust camshaft out. Now we're going to pull the intake. So this is the one with the variable valve timing on it, but that should not be a big deal. From the looks of it, it should pop out just as the other one did. So first things first, I need to make sure this is rotated to a neutral position, and it appears that it is. So looking at it, each one of these lobes is just resting on, or it's up off of the these springs. So that should put it into kind of a neutral position where it's not going to put a lot of stress on these like I did over here because I was an idiot. So once again, I'm going to do this in that spiral kind of motion. So go ahead and start here. So each of these is going to be a half turn. So there's one. Got the front labeled, so here's the front of the engine. It's this way. So I'm going to take this rear off, pops out, drop him right into the hole. Let's do that for each one of these guys. Pop that off, slide it in. Pop that off, slide it in. Knock that off, slide it in. Got this last one I'm probably going to have to tap on, so I'm going to set this down. So I had a tap on the last one. I'm just going to go ahead and do that from the start. Got my nylon mallet. It's going to come out here to the front. Just give it a few gentle taps. It's coming out. Okay, it's loose. I think. Let's see. I want to separate this. It's got a seal in it. Let me do this really quick. I'm going to pull this seal out. And I've got a nifty little tool. I'm going to show you how I do it. All right, so I'm going to pull the seal out here. I got a neat little tool. It's this guy, and it is from someone. I think it's like Lyle or somebody. But it's got this weird little thing on it that you can adjust, and it kind of goes up along there like this, and then it's got this little hook on the end. And then this is for removing seals. So the idea is you put this up against a seal, and this will kind of allow you to pull it out of there without damaging too much stuff here. So what I'm going to do here is on this side, the way that this is supposed to work is this kind of hooks into the seal like so. Once it's on there, this guy is supposed to kind of push off against something. So you kind of hook that into there, and this guy pushes off, and then it pries out the seal for you like that. So, all right, back to the camshaft. So now that I've got those out, I'm going to go ahead and see if I can't lift this piece out here. Now this is difficult than the other camshaft. So, okay, that one actually came out. So now the reason it gets stuck a little bit is because there's sealant on this. So I don't know if you can see it, but there's like gobs of sealant here. And that sealant kind of sticks it down to this, and that's how they use to keep the valve cover from leaking. So that's just one thing you have to look out for. So I'm gonna set that inside this box. Now looking at this camshaft is a bit interesting. There's a bit of, feels like scoring on this bearing, and there's the same kind of thing over here, a little right here as well, and I'm not really sure what that's from. All right, so I'm gonna lift this out very carefully. And there she comes. Set this down on the box along with the other camshaft. And there we go. So here's a quick look at the box, how I've got it all set up. So as you can see, we've got the front and E2, 3, 4, 5 exhaust camshaft, intake camshaft, and intake 2, 3, 4, 5. So those are all lined up. So we've got a nice reference point. All the bolts are where they need to be. So everything should be set up. I'm going to start doing a similar thing as I pull the rest of the parts of this engine out. I'm going to go ahead and do the similar thing and just label where each one comes from, each spring, each bolt, so that I've got a nice layout of all that stuff. Alright, up next is the cam followers. That's these guys right here. They ride against the cam, between the cam and the valve, and they provide, I want to say, some lash adjustment, because I think these have HLAs. I'm not sure on that. I'll have to look it up. But so we got to pull those out. Now there's 2 per side, so there's 4 per cylinder. So we need a good place to store these. The manual I have says to write the numbers on them so that you know. And I've also got this egg box, so I can just like put this the cams into the egg carton so that I've got it labeled. The strategy here is we're going to take each one of these, number from front to back, and then take them out one at a time and put them into the egg box. So this is the exhaust side, so I will start by wiping this guy off here, and we'll label him E1. So from what they're saying, these have to go back into their exact spots they came out of. They are a tight fit. I'm going to tell you something. They are tight. So I'm going to do E1. Alright, and that should be fine to have that on there. So E1. I'm just going to go down the line here and label them all first. Now, on each of these, there's a little notch here. This little notch, as you can see, they rotate smoothly. It's really smooth rotation. They're very perfectly ground and fit inside of there. So I'm fairly sure that's why they also have to go back in the same spot. There's a tiny little opening here, a little square opening that, I don't know if oil is supposed to come out of that because it flows through them, but there's a square opening right there, and one of the things they say you can use is a cam grinding suction cup to pull these out. Unfortunately, I don't have one of those, so I'm going to use a little screwdriver. I'm going to be very careful. You have to be very careful with these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my egg carton here. Hopefully, I can fill this up without it tipping over and making a huge mess all over the place. So I'm going to start here. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I'll just go along that. So do it very carefully, just pull upwards, and I'm not trying to pry, I'm just pulling upwards because this whole piece comes out just like that. So I'm just going to start that off. 8 here. I'll come in and do 7 in the same fashion. This egg carton's in the way a little bit, but carefully pull that out. Same deal. And 1. Okay. See, now we're to the point where you can actually see the valves down inside of there. Those are the actual, those are the keepers down inside, and then this is the top of the valve. The spring, this is what holds, so the valve stem right here, and you got the spring is held on via this, and then you've got the keepers here which hold that whole assembly together. So we'll have to go ahead and take that out as well. I'm going to go ahead and flip around here and do the exact same thing on the opposite side. All right, so we are finally here pulling the head. So we've got all the cam followers out. The camshafts have been removed. As you can see, this is all empty now. So our next step is to actually pull the head. So it's going to be these bolts down here. There's once again a ton of those. So in order to get those off, I'm going to refer back to the manual here, and this manual shows that just as with the camshafts, it needs to be removed in a spiral pattern. So go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in that circle, and also just like that one, they need to be loosened by a half turn, then a full turn, and then full removal. So that is to keep the head from distorting, since the block is cast iron, but the head is aluminum, so the head can distort. So we want to minimize that by correctly loosening these up. So I'm not just going to run at it with an impact wrench, because that's just going to loosen them way too much. So I am going to grab my larger wrench. Now, here's the only thing with this, is that these are splines, and I know this manual here says, don't worry, your normal sockets will work. Well, here's the difference. I've got a spline socket here, and I've also got a standard socket. And if you look at these guys, you can kind of see that they are, this is just a normal kind of looking socket. This guy is a normal looking socket. This guy has a whole bunch of tiny little ones in it. Now this one will work with other bolts. This will work on any bolt. That's a 12 millimeter. So here's one right here. You can see that just drops right in, and that holds just fine. However, since that works as well. However, they're not the same as far as these screws here go. So if we look at this bolt, you can see that it's kind of splined. So I have a normal style socket, and it will not go on. Now if I use this spline socket, try not to drop it down the spark plug hole because it'd be terrible. If I use a spline socket, it drops right on and it locks in place. So I know it says in the manual you can use any socket, but I've tried a couple of my sockets. In fact, here's my half-inch 12 millimeter, and that is the standard, and that also will not fit. So you're definitely gonna need one of those splined sockets in order to get these bolts out. So let me get the tripod set back up and we will start yanking this head off. All right, now the manual says we're gonna need a 5-inch extension. Looks like I can probably get away with a 3-inch, so I'm gonna go ahead and use that. I'm gonna go ahead and just take one more peek at this diagram to look at how they're doing it. All right, so should go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We're gonna do it with the that standard half turn, full turn, and remove. So let me go ahead and get out of here. This is probably gonna be a lot tighter than the other one. I'm gonna actually put my weight onto this engine stand here. So I'm gonna stand on the legs so that I get a little more leverage. Oh geez, that is in there. Okay. Let me change my position a little bit. Gosh, this is really... Oh, there we go. I don't want to re-ratchet because I want to make sure that... Oh, geez. All right. That's one. This is crazy. Oh, that is really tight. There's 10. All right. Half turn on each. All right, so start all over again. And we're gonna do the full turn. So let me start over here. These are already loose. So three. Wow, these are really loose. 4. Yeah, these are all really loose. I'm surprised. Yeah, I hope that half turn was okay. I also this manual recommended, but yeah. Worst case, I'm gonna have these heads checked and everything. So, you know, if something does happen, I will be able to determine, you know, what the problem is, and then have them correct it. So, so I'm gonna do the same thing I did with the camshafts, and I'm gonna use my box here. I'm gonna poke a bunch of holes in it, and now as I take each one of these out, I will be putting it in that box so that I keep all the bolts straight and where they're supposed to go. Now, I may not be reusing these because I did buy ARP studs, but like I say, just to be safe, I am going to make sure that these get put in the right spot. Now, the washer's sticking. I have a magnet that I'm going to use to reach down inside there and grab it. Can't find things when you need them. Well, I'm just going to use this for now. Just a scriber that I've got with a magnet on it. So, just going to put that back on there and slide that down in the box. So that is all the head bolts removed. So the head is technically now free to come off the block. So let me zoom you guys out and see if I can't pop this head off. Looking at the a manual here. It says you can just lift the block off. I'll try and give it a little tug here. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's actually coming up. Only thing that I see a little bit of wetness. Looks like there's still some coolant in that. Let me grab a tray really quick here just to set under here. I'm not sure what's going to come out, so just kind of be prepared for that. All right, let me kind of slowly. Oh, I can hear it kind of. Whoop. Yeah, I think it's coming. Go ahead. Let me move the fuel rail down here so I've got a good place to set this, because I'm not so sure I can get it set on my workbench. Yeah, I'll just kind of set it on its face or something. Okay. Just gonna use these lifting studs. Perfect. All right, well, there you have it. Let me wipe my hands off really quick, and I can pull you guys in for a close-up. There you go. That is the first time this engine has seen light since, well, probably since it was built. This car only had 80 something thousand miles on it, like 85,000. So look at that. It does not look too bad. I don't really see anything too awful. There's a lot of that, I think some like wetness or some water, some got down inside there and started to flake off some of the deposits. But yeah, look at that, man. That's excellent. All right, well, let's take a quick look at the head. I'm gonna flip this guy up. Hopefully, it's really heavy. Probably gonna pour a bunch of crap everywhere. Also not too bad. Nice. Awesome, guys. Well, that is it. She is pretty much taken apart. The only thing I'll have to do is get that oil pan off, take the water pump off the front, and start disassembling the rest of the block. Take the oil pump off as well, and take the pistons and cylinders out. So I think as far as today goes, it's been a pretty good success, because I've been wanting to get this thing taken apart for a little while now. So first time I've ever had an engine apart myself, and this is awesome. So pretty excited. This is, yeah, a sense of accomplishment. Well, everyone, this is about the end of this video. A lot accomplished here. I'm really happy that I was able to get all of this stuff done. It's pretty exciting because I've never been this far into an engine before. So the sense of accomplishment is pretty big for me. I am excited to start tearing the crankshaft out, pull out the pistons, get a good look at them as well. Hopefully I'll have that video up in the next couple days. I'm going to be working on this engine over the weekend as well as the next day or two, just to try to get everything torn down. I really want to get moving on this project. I'm super excited about getting that Miata actually finished. So hopefully I can get this done sooner than later, and you guys will get a ton more content to see. Please let me know if there's any questions or comments on this. I'd love to hear from you guys if there's anything that I'm not doing well enough. I've been working on trying to get some better explanations in my videos. So hopefully that'll help out a little bit more. And as we get deeper into the engine here and more into the actual mechanicals rather than just tearing things down, it'll become a lot more interesting, I hope. But I just want to thank everyone again for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you on the next video.